Hi everyone, this is Constellations here, and as promised, I have the Layla math guide now ready after the Wanderer math guide 1. So we'll talk about Layla also because she's coming soon. She's going to be released in like 2 to 3 days from the point of me publishing this video. So to be honest, I've completely ignored her while I was doing the Nahida math guides. But I think it's good to take a look at her now. And I'll quickly talk about her in terms of her kit, stats, weapons, artifacts, and entire kit summary per se. Okay, so just a quick one on her stats. She's a HP scaling character, so her base HP is actually pretty good for a 4-star character. It's 11k HP. That's pretty nice, and you have 24% HP from the Ascension stat. So it ties in with her kit. Unlike a certain someone who is a shielder 2, who is cryo 2, but does not have a HP Ascension stat, and base HP is lower than 10k. Yeah. Now, for Vernon Sword is my weapon of choice, and I'll talk more about it in the weapons section. Why this weapon? Okay. So we'll go straight down. Well, I guess I can quickly talk about the artifacts. Let me think about it. Nah, let's talk about it later. Okay. So we'll talk about the talents, passives, constellations, the kit summary itself, the weapons, nodes and assumptions, energy generation, Layla's comms, artifacts, and I'll do a bit of a math here for the quick shield comparison. We'll do one Zhongli versus Diona versus Layla. So to be honest, I was a bit surprised when people said that Layla's shield is almost as strong as Zhongli's. It's actually not. But no worries, we'll look at that at the quick shield comparison itself. But hers is definitely doing pretty well. Okay. Alright, let's look at the talents. Talents is very, very straightforward. I'm not going to talk about the normal attack because she's not a normal attack DPS. So we'll jump straight into the elemental skill, and you'll notice that I actually have level 6 here, unlike my usual videos where I do level 9 and level 12. But why is that the case? It's because she's the first 4-star character that has been stuck between 2 new 5-star characters that are somewhat desirable. Oh, okay, and honestly speaking, Nahida is very desirable in terms of getting her, okay? Yeah, my I've got her. And the other character would be Wanderer. Now, Wanderer I know may not be everyone's cup of tea, right? Because it's not like the typical meta character per se. But he whether or not he performs well, we'll see later in future Wanderer math guides. But essentially what I'm trying to say here is that she has no chance to use a weekly boss materials from Scaramouche, because those are either going to go to Nahida or Wanderer. Which is why I have to do math based on level 6. Because mine is going to be level 6. I'm pretty sure mine is going to be level 6. Because I don't even intend to get her C3. I mean, I'll try, but if I don't get the C3, then, you know, that's that. Because 4-star character is actually very hard to guarantee the C6 if you are not trying to get a 5-star on the same banner. Okay? And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So, her talent multipliers are not high. Okay, you can see it here, 17.9% at level 6, 20.6% shooting star damage. Base shield is okay, 15.1% max HP plus 1646 is actually pretty high for a 4-star character. In terms of this multiplier, it's actually even higher than Diona. But Diona has a lot of Diona has a built-in damage absorption buff when you use her hold. And I think a lot of people are not taking that into consideration. Okay? Even for Zhongli. So anyway, Layla's E basically gives you a shield while also having shooting stars periodically. So how shooting stars work is through something called night stars, which is you can literally see the night stars on her shield. Now there are 3 sources of night stars that can be obtained while the shield is up. One is overtime, every 1.5 seconds you get 1 night star. You'll also get 2 for every E use per 0.3 second. Okay, in case you're spamming sacrificial or something. Now, but even then, yeah, even then it would still be it still wouldn't be faster than 0.3. Yeah, not even Yae, for example. But more importantly, there's also a Q prop. The prop from her Q also gives you 1 per 0.5 seconds. 1 night star per 0.5 seconds. Okay. To be clear, this is the limit. It's not that her Q Pro will actually give you 1 every 0.5 seconds. This is the limit, okay? Per 0.3 second, per 0.5 second here is the limit. The fastest you can go. Obviously, that is not as fast as that. And I'll talk more about the rate of the Q procs as well later. So effectively, there are 3 sources for you to get your Night Stars, and once you get 4 Night Stars, it will trigger 4 Shooting Stars sequentially, and it fires off pretty quickly, and the cycle will then repeat itself. Okay, so this means that it's actually easy to ensure Layla's E continually fires off Shooting Stars, especially while her Q is active. And I'll say it's enough to maintain the 4 tenacity effect. Damage-wise, it's pretty bad even with a passive, right? I mean, what is this? So it's really more about cryo application. It's really more about cryo application for her. She does, however, utilize her very well with her low multipliers. So that's one thing to consider if you want to. Now, the biggest problem, like I said, right, at the very start when I talk about level 6, level 9, level 12, is that we can't really spare weekly boss talent materials for her. Scarab boss materials. Since I need to spend on Nahida, I need to spend on Wanderer. So I honestly expect my Layla talents to stay at level 6 for a long time. At least until a few weeks after the next new weekly boss. And we just got Scara weekly boss this patch. So yeah, it's gonna be really long. Likewise for Faruzan, by the way. But Faruzan is not so bad because I will get her Constellations. But she's on the same banner with Wanderer. At least based on the info that we have so far. Not official yet. So at least Faruzan should at least get level 9. Should still at least get level 9. So it's still not so bad for her. Let's talk about Layla's Q. Okay, Layla's Q. Again, level 6, level 9, level 12, right? It's not too bad. I mean, 6.5% max HP, and you have a 7.9% at level 9. Level 12 is 9.3%. So it's okay. And what I like is the fact that the duration and the cooldown is a 100% match, 12 seconds each, 40 energy cost. So this means that she effectively can do 100% uptime if the rotation allows it. I can't say for sure until we do the rotation math on Wanderer. But yeah, you more or less get what I'm trying to say here, okay? And also, based on the gameplay vids that are available now, the proc rate for Starlight Slug is approximately 1.5 seconds. So every 1.5 seconds you get a proc. So every 1.5 seconds you also get 1 Night Star. Right? Now, couple that with the 1 every 1.5 seconds, you actually get 2 every 1.5 seconds even without E being used. What this means is that every 3 seconds you get 4 Night Stars and you proc your Night Stars. So that's why I say she can maintain a 4 tenacity effect. And there's going to be a scenario where you're not using your E, right? Because once you go into your Wanderer E mode, you're going to be doing DP damage. You're going to go into your output DPS for 10, 12, 14 seconds depending on which permutation you have. And you want to know what I'm talking about, go look at Wanderer Math Guide 1. I've already broken that down. So outside damage for Q is okay, but it doesn't look fantastic to be honest with you guys. So you are better off with HP percentage focus for a shield and some CR for Favonius. Okay. So let's talk about the passives. While her shield is active, the deep sleep effect will activate each time you get a Night Star. So basically, this is very straightforward. You get shield strength 6%, 4 stats, and it persists until the shield disappears. So that's the good thing. It doesn't persist until your shooting stars are gone. That would be very, very bad. So I'll say it's pretty standard for a shielder to have some form of shield strength increase. Tuma has it, Diona has it, Xingyan, I can't remember. Yeah, but you get what I'm trying to say here, right? You do have shield strength passives in their kits. So pretty standard. Next thing here is a bit of assistance in terms of her damage output, so that it's not completely abysmal, although it's still pretty bad. Because what this does is that it increases the shooting star damage, each shooting star by 1.5% of Layla's max HP. So in total it's like 6% HP, right? So for reference, right, a simple reference is to look at Thomas A4. Thomas A4 gives you a 2.2% HP per second because that's the proc, right, of his Q. So we're talking about 2.2% HP per second versus 6% HP per 3 seconds, so it's more or less the same. 2.2 versus 2, basically, per second. So if you look at Thomas' damage, then you know how Layla's damage is going to be even with this passive. Okay? But that being said, it's still higher than Diona. Diona does no damage, basically. Okay? So when Layla craft character okay. So if I didn't remember wrongly, she's the first 4-star character with this talent. Because the other two are 5 stars, right? Ayaka and Albedo, if I didn't remember wrongly. But other than her being the first 4-star character to have this, it's pretty meh. And I think most players will have Ayaka, because Ayaka is one of the most F2P friendly character, DPS performance wise. So yeah, meh. Now let me move on to talk about the constellations. So C1 is very, very straightforward. C1 is again giving you shield strength or shield absorption or damage absorption, whatever you call it, is the same thing. Increases by 20%. Now, other than that, she also gains an effect where she will generate a shield for any nearby party members who are not protected by a curtain of slumber. So what this means is that this actually is giving it to your co-op team member. If you're playing single player, this doesn't do anything for you because you will be using the once you switch to your other character, you will be using the main shield and not this shield. So in fact, it's kind of like the Diona C2. Because Diona C2 also does the same thing. You get increased shield strength and you also give a shield to your co-op party members. So I guess it's good that it's earlier. At least you only need to get C1 instead of C2. But it's not that important. As in this difference, whether it's C1 or C2. It helps that it's C1, but not that important. Now, let's talk about C2 next. Okay? When shooting stars from Knights of former focus strike opponents, they will each restore 1 energy to Layla. Each shooting star can restore energy to her in this manner once. But then again, it's 4 shooting stars every 3 seconds, right? So, with her shield lasting 12 seconds, you basically get 16 energy. And it's actually very, very similar to Diona's C1. So basically, her C1 and C2 is just like Diona's C2 and C1. It's just swapped between the C1 and C2, that's all. Because Diona C1 gives her 15 energy after the Q ends, whereas Layla gets 16 energy throughout time. But there's a slight difference here. Number one, you actually need enough opponents throughout Layla's E to get the 16 energy. That 12 seconds duration. If you don't have it, you don't have enemies, your shooting star is not striking anyone, you're not gonna get the energy, right? Because it says here, it's when it strikes opponents. It's not like Diona, it is the case of when her Q ends. But in return, Layla's Q is only 40 energy cost compared to Diona's 80. So Layla's C2 is basically, it has a chance to be better with more or less the same on average. Like if I half this to be the average, right? 8 energy, right? 8 energy for 40, then 8 energy for 40 versus 15 for 80 is kind of the same. But if you have enough opponents, her C2 is going to be basically double Diona's effect. Think of it that way. Okay? Yeah. But on average, it's the same. It has a chance to be better. Really, really depending on whether you have opponents there for you to strike. And C3 increasing her shield definitely makes sense to me. E first for the shield, and her main purpose is shielded, right? Next is basically a flat damage bonus to NA and CA DPS characters, allowing you to get a 5% of Layla's max HP. So it's not really high per se, but it helps because for Layla you wouldn't go crit, right? You'll go full HP if you're going full shielder. And then that 5% has a bigger effect because that 5% will then take the crit ratio of your NACA DPS character. So it helps, but I can tell you it's not going to be too impactful. Okay, not too impactful. Not critical, not a must-have. It's good to have. Oh, and one more thing is that this doesn't give you any additional cryo application. It is just a add-on flat damage bonus. Oh, and it's 1 time every 3 seconds. So that's why I say it's not that critical. It's only 1 time every 3 seconds. Next, we have C5. C5, yeah. Like I said, C5 is always the worst constellation. So it doesn't do much for HP shielder build. It's okay for creep build. That's about it. Now, let's talk about C6. Now, C6 looks pretty good on paper. Yeah, you do 40% increased damage from shooting stars, you do 40% increased damage from starlight slots. Additionally, the interval of creation of night stars via Knights of Formal Focus is decreased by 20%. So not bad, right? So instead of 1.5 seconds, you basically get 1.2 seconds. This is the 1 every 1.5 seconds. It gets improved to 1 every 1.2 seconds. So basically, it helps make your night star earlier and helps ensure your fall tenacity effect even better. Okay? But that's about it. And her damage is not that high to begin with. So I don't think she will get like Xingqiu level damage, to be honest with you guys, because you gotta understand that Xingqiu's constellations are all improving his damage. It's really all improving his damage. But Layla's constellations are about shield strength, about improving her shield. So you cannot expect Layla to do as good damage as Xingqiu, because one is a fully focused sub DPS character with for some reason still has some other support benefits. Yeah, he's in bar for 4-star. But what I'm trying to say here is Layla is not going to be that great. Unlikely. Okay, I'm sorry, but unlikely. Now, if you have Layla C6, I guess crit build could utilize it better, but you sacrifice your shield for it, which is the main function. So it kind of defeats the purpose in a sense. Now, if you want to rely on her to provide more overall team DPS, and you don't mind a weaker shield that breaks easily, go for it. Especially if you're not saving up for future 5-star. But if you're saving up for future 5-star, I really don't recommend pulling for her C6 on the rerun banner. Unless for some unless you already want Yae, Miko, or Childe constellations, or themselves. But essentially, if you're doing a shoulder build, which I recommend, C0 is good enough. If you're greedy and you don't mind risking pulls on her banner, C1 or C3 are decent targets to stop. Whether C1 or C3 depends on your risk appetite, and it also depends on your luck, right? For all you know, maybe your first 10 pull you get 2 Laylas. That's like C1 done. But you could also be very unlucky and not get a single Layla after getting even 2 5-stars. That's possible too. The variance is huge on 4-star rate up characters. So again, remember your risk appetite. Okay. Now, if you want to build her as a sub DPS, C6 will be helpful. Will be great, I guess. But like I said, not a firm believer of her as a sub DPS. I believe her role is better as a shielder with cryo application, with more cryo application than Diona. So I guess you can say that Layla is kind of a mix between Rosara and Diona, where instead of shield plus heal, she gives you shield plus sub DPS. Or more accurately, better damage and continuous cryo application than Diona in terms of consistency and also her Q AoE. Now I know the Q hit, the procs are not AoE per se, but at least the AoE where her Q will attack enemies is bigger than Diona's. Diona's Q is actually pretty small. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say pretty small, right? Because the smallest is like Cole's. But whether her damage is good for that, I need to do the math, but I don't think I will have the time to do it. Okay. So her shield is slightly stronger than Diona due to her higher base HP ascensions there, and the fact that she can use 40's tenacity, right? Which gives you 20% HP on the 2-piece effect and 30% shield strength. But actually I did not update this, huh? I actually intended to do it later. I actually intended to do it in future, but I ended up doing it in this video already. It's here. Okay. Like I said, the bad thing is that she has to live with base level 6E for some time, so it may be weaker than Diona's, but let's see in the comparison. Let's see in the comparison. Okay. So in other words, she can do well in any comp that you usually use Diona or Sarah in, really. Provided you either don't really need healing, example freeze comp, or you have another healer too. But truth be told, right? The thing about freeze comp is that there will always be intervals where the opponent are not being freeze, and that in those intervals can result in you taking damage or even getting knockback. Which is why I still like Diona in my Morgana comp. Okay? But let's say if you're using, say, Wanderer, Faruzan, Bandit, Layla, then you can go ahead and use Layla because you don't need a healer. You don't need Diona to heal because you have Bandit who's healing. And also providing a very sizable attack buff for both Faruzan and Wanderer. Faruzan's damage potential looks actually pretty good. I'll talk more about her in the next video when we talk about Faruzan. So this is the kit summary I have for you guys for Layla. Essentially what I recommend is really going shielder build. Okay. Now weapons wise, she's another HP scaling sword user right after Nilou, right? But obviously the only HP percentage swords are PJC and Nilou's signature, which I've already talked about previously for Nilou. PJC, like I said, is a waste because she's not like a optimized DPS build per se. You can use PJC on her if you're going C6 and you're going crit build. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that she feels better utilized as a shielder. As a full focus on shielder. Now, Nilou's signature is actually decent as a stat stick. 66% HP, right, from the weapon stat. And maybe some EM buff as well if you actually choose to use her on field, like how you have to do it for Cookie. Because Nilou's signature requires you to use all 3 E's on field. Sorry, it's not all 3 E's. I think you need all 3 E's to hit someone on field in order to trigger the EM buff. So you're actually not going to do optimized actions to get your EM buff if you think about it that way. You're going to be wasting some time on your Layla on field to prod the Nilou signature effect. So not that great in my opinion, unless you really just want the 66% HP, you don't care about the EM buff. But I struggle to find a comp here where her EM buff will be like, maybe I guess for Melt it helps, but I'm not a fan of using Key on her. Key of Kaishni suit on her. But I guess if you have a spare key, you know, by all means go well. But to me, key is always better off on Nilou, or if you don't mind switching all the time, you do you. But personally, I will go with a bonus for her to improve her battery roll to party, right? Because might as well let her do a universal battery roll. Help a little bit with the universal battery roll. And also to provide ER for her. Because Layla, I know it's 40 energy cost, but if you happen to have to use it every time it's up, right? Then you still need ER. Doesn't mean that you don't need ER. So that for bonus ER will make it more than enough for her and allow you to full focus on HP for her. And maybe some base ER rolls here and there. That's it. Especially because you want her Q together with her E to ensure the Force Tenacity effect works. If you don't have your Q together with her E, your Force Tenacity is not going to work. Especially when your Wanderer is not using E and he's just using his normal attacks. Or any other normal attacks charged at DPS. Alright? Or PA DPS. Like, you know, I think there's only one character, right? Oh. Okay. So Wanderers... No, sorry. This is not Wanderer's ICD. This is Layla's ICD. My bad. So Layla's ICD, as far as I can see, the Q ICD is 1U once every 2 Q procs. So it's about 3 seconds once. But I didn't see any info on E, so let me know if you guys have seen. But I have to say it's kind of hard to search back on info for her now because of the fact that I completely ignored her while working on Nahida. I'm sorry to the Layla mains. Yeah, but she's not really a main type of character, right? Okay, so energy generation. Apparently, she is providing 1 to 4 particles per wave for shooting stars, which makes her really good. This is her energy. But just remember that it's cryo energy. Okay? Cryo energy, I think in freeze comp she'll be good. She'll be great actually. Energy wise. Very good cryo battery. If this is already the case. But for my math, I'll probably average it out to be like 2.5 every 3 seconds. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I think it's 2.5, right in the middle. So 2.5 energy every 2 seconds, which makes it a pretty good cryo battery. But unfortunately for other elemental characters, it's like 0.6 energy, so not as awesome. But still helps. And for your own field character, it's 1 energy, so yeah, that's that. So Layla's comms, let's talk quickly about it, right? She really has many options because she can fit where Diona currently fits, or even Rosara as well. So I think she's actually a great boost for Morgana comp, because I think some folks, if your Ganyu is not doing enough damage, you need Rosaria instead of Diona, right? In Morgana. Should I call it Morgaria then? Okay, but anyway, you can then now use Layla, so Morgala. And I think that's where she brings benefit, which is free comps. But personally, I'm actually interested in her for Wanderer, and I will include her for future Wanderer math guides, although not always, because like I said, there's a few variants. And probably to try her out in freeze comps in general, in terms of to try her out in freeze comp in gameplay when we do get her, which is like 2 to 3 days from the point of me publishing this video. All right. So lastly, second last item on the agenda, we have artifacts here. I think it should be a no-brainer that it's 4 tenacity, right? I mean, I've already mentioned a few times going through a kit that she can sustain 4 tenacity effect. Not to mention 2 tenacity gives you 20% HP, 4 tenacity gives you 30% shield strength. So in terms of artifact builds, I'll say go triple HP with CR for Favonius. If you can't get enough CR that way, then you go HP CR. Especially if your artifact subset rolls are not great. So luckily for me, actually there's a slight typo here. Luckily for me, I can just pass her Cookie's previous HP CR artifacts, since my Cookie is on EM pieces now. All thanks to farming tenacity for Yelan. That's why I have so many spare pieces. So yeah, I actually have my artifacts completed for her without farming for it. Or I guess you can say that the farming was already done long ago. So I'll show you guys my stats here when I do the comparison here. It's going to be a quick one. I'm just going to compare Zhongli, Diona, Layla. Now if you remember for Toma previously, I actually did like comparison against Xingyan and Noelle as well. But yeah, anyway, those are kind of outdated. Even my Zhongli stats have changed since then, and my Toma stats have changed since then. Even my Noelle stats have changed since then as well. Okay. Hell, even my Xingyan has changed since then. So yeah. So these are the stats. Okay, so it's very straightforward. All character level are obviously at level 19, because they are not attack scaling, they are HP scaling. If all 3 of them are HP scaling. This is just my actual artifacts. Okay, this is my actual artifact, my actual stats. I'm not saying that you must follow mine, at least for Zhongli, because my Zhongli is a bit special. I know not many people do what I'm doing here, where I do HP, Geo HP, because mine is a sub DPS shielder hybrid. So my HP percentage rolls are actually quite a fair bit lower, even when I'm using Homa R1. It's only 138.3%. And obviously the 138.3% includes main stats. Okay, main artifact stat, the 46.6 from main stat. So you see that Diona and Layla do have a higher percentage than my Zhongli, because like I said, mine is a hybrid build, not a full shielder build. And I'm not even using for tenacity, I'm using 2 Petra, 2 Nobles. Okay? But I do have, and I also have high crit stats, which is why my HP is lower. Okay? Yeah, I know this is 1 to 4, but yeah, I am happy with this personally. So HP, this is their HP value. Well, Zhongli does have a higher base HP, so you know, his HP is pretty high. And this is Zhongli shield with all absorptions. Because that's the thing about Geo shield, right? They get 150% absorption, and on top of that, with the A1 effect, it's beautiful. It's 25k shield on Zhongli. But I don't think you want to hear me talking about Zhongli, right? So the most important comparison will be Diona versus Layla. Now, as you can see, a level 6E C1 Layla Level 6 E C1 Layla, which is basically this figure here, is 13k. Diona with a level 12E and C2 actually is lower by 500. Now this is in terms of all, okay, I should use all absorption. Okay, so all absorption. It's 500 lower. So yes, Layla has a stronger shield than Diona, for sure. Because Diona's kit in the first place is a mess. I don't know why the hell she has Cryo Ascension substat, Ascension stat, Cryo damage bonus Ascension stat, and her base HP is less than 10k for a HP scaling character. What is going on with that? Is it because she's a feline character, so her HP is lower? I don't know. I don't know what's the logic behind that, but obviously it's not well thought of. Okay. And bear in mind that her having 500 HP lower, you may say that it's because of 8% HP lower, but that 8% is, yeah, it's more or less equivalent. Okay, so I can say level 6 Layla E is more or less equivalent to a level 12 E. C1 on Layla, C2 on Diona, with everything else remaining more or less the same, at least shoulder stats wise. So once you, but if I look at C0 Layla at level 6, it is worse than the Diona level 12 C2 by 1k. But once you go to level 9E, Layla is always better, right? 14.3k versus 12.6k. If your C1 is 16.1k versus 12.6k. In fact, I'll say it's you don't even need level 9. You just need level 8 onwards, and her E should already do better. Her shield should already do better than Diona's shield. And obviously, if you eventually get her to level 12E with C3, with a Fulvonius weapon, by the way, not the Nilou weapon or PJC, because like I said, I don't think it's ideal on them. Or rather, the weapon can be better utilized other way, and provided you're like me, you don't like to switch around. I mean, I don't mind switching around occasionally, but I don't like to have to switch every time. That's a personal preference thing. Okay. Oh, if you don't understand why certain figures are there, right? It's basically very, very simple. This is like the base, and then you have the 4 tenacity effect, 30% shield strength in. Add that along with Layla A1 effect. These are all cumulative, okay? And then you have the Layla C1 effect, and that's how Layla's shield grows. How we get the figures. Now, obviously, for cryo absorption, both Diona and Layla will be higher than Zhongli. But in terms of all absorption, Zhongli is obviously still better. Like, I mean, we're talking about 25k versus even 19k if I take a level 12E Layla to compare, i.e. C3+. That's not close. This is a 6k difference. It's not close. 6k is like 2 to 3 small hits and 1 heavy hit, for example. Which makes a lot of difference. In terms of your DPS, 1 heavy hit. In terms of the interaction and stuff like that. Or having to dodge, whatever the case is. So I don't understand why people think that her shield is almost as strong as Zhongli's. It's not. Because bear in mind that my Zhongli isn't even a full HP shielder build with 4 tenacity, by the way. So it's going to be an even bigger difference than dropping your E by 3 levels to level 9. Because I know that people still say that, oh, not everyone has level 12 Zhongli, level 12 E C3 Zhongli, right? That's fair. But I can tell you, dropping that 3 levels versus going full HP, that full HP will still have a bigger effect. Okay? But to be fair, Layla does have the strongest shield now for a 4-star character. And obviously the strongest versus cryo damage. Like, even Toma's shield is not that great. Because Toma's shield takes time to build up to the max effect. Now the max effect may be strong, but you're gonna see if you have ever used Toma, you know what I mean, okay? You're gonna see the shield break somewhere in between. Especially if you try to face tank with Toma's shield. So, yep. So Layla has the strongest shield 4-star character and obviously the strongest versus cryo, but I can tell you it's gonna be very, very seldom for you to find scenarios where it's all cryo damage anyway. So it's better to just look at the all absorption figure. Okay, so level 9E Layla at C1 gives you 16k, C0 is 14k. Still the strongest 4-star shield. Alright. Yep. So I really hope that this Childe comparison is helpful to you guys. Yeah. So just a very quick TLDR. I initially ignored Layla, but she actually has a pretty strong shield. In fact, it's looking to be the best 4-star shield, and also better cryo application plus battery than Diona. At least once she can afford to use Scaraboss materials in terms of her shield wise. Okay. Otherwise, if you are at level 6E with C0, you're actually still slightly weaker than a fully built C3, C2, C3 Diona, because like we're talking about level 12E. But it's okay. I mean, eventually we'll get there. Okay. So even a C1 Layla level 6E matches a level 12E Diona with almost the same amount of total HP percentage from all the available sources. Okay. So I'll say Diona is receiving quite the short end of the stick here, but I guess at least she has 200 EM and 200 EM buff and heals going for her, and 200 EM is at C6. So yeah, that's that. So NGL, I'm actually really looking forward to doing math for Wanderer with Layla in comp. And for details on her energy and generation, ICD, etc., do check out the specific sessions. As for pools wise, I'll probably try for C3, but I'll be happy with C1. Hell, even if worst case scenario, if I get a C0, that's fine too. I hope I at least get a C0. Because my Yae is C6, my Childe is C5. But I don't want Childe C6 because it's useless to me. So yeah, I just hope to get Layla in like the first 50 pools as we try to build up soft PT for Wanderer. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay, but I don't recommend if your risk appetite is low, by the way. Or the other way round, okay? If you already have guaranteed 5-star, I actually don't recommend risking it. The risk is much bigger. Unless you have Giga Chap balls or guts or whatever you want to call it. Alright, so next video is going to be Faruzan Math Guide 1. I actually have a little bit of dilemma with regards to her artifact, the 4-piece effect, but it's not in terms of like what artifact she can use. It's more like which is the best. There are two that are pretty close in my mind, but I'm starting to lean heavily towards one. You guys can guess in the comments which one it is if you want to. But anyway, I'll share that next when my Faruzan Math Guide 1 is done. Okay? And after the Faruzan Math Guide 1, I'll probably move on to Wanderer series. Then, okay, Faruzan Math Guide 1 may take me. I may have to do something extra for Faruzan Math Guide 1 in order to do the artifact comparison, which is to include all her damage figures solo. Although I said I don't want to do solo figures anymore. Actually it's simple. Maybe I'll just include like a banded buff and Layla tenacity buff. Yeah. Alright, anyway, that's what is coming next, and I hope this video so far has been helpful to you guys in terms of understanding Layla. She's really quite the improvement over Diona, which is fair, right? I mean, Diona she has been around since version 1.1. So it's okay. After 2 years plus, having a character that's better than her is fine. So anyway, I hope the content is helpful to you guys. Thanks around for watching. If you like the content, remember like video and click subscribe for more. Bye. Let me keep the screen here. So yep. Bye.